After years of simplifying my own life, I have learned that freedom isn't always about having more, even though we live in a world that constantly tells us otherwise. Sometimes the answer is in having less. So to simplify life, I wouldn't start by chasing what is missing. Instead, I would let go of the excess to create more space and freedom. But this process isn't always so easy. So in this guide, I have put together some key steps I would take and important things I would do if I wanted to simplify my life in 2025. I will go through why starting with self-awareness is the key to everything, how to break free and find your flow, top habits you could start, and big mistakes you should avoid. Part 1. Start with self-awareness. I believe that self-awareness is the foundation to simpler and more intentional life. It's about understanding who you are at your core, your values, desires, strengths, and even fears. Without self-awareness, it's easy to make changes that don't truly align with what matters to you. You might declutter or simplify, but if you're not focusing on the right areas, those efforts will not feel really meaningful, and the clutter, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, will slowly creep back into your life. So that's why I believe that the worst enemy is the one you cannot see. Simplifying your life can sometimes feel like fighting an invisible enemy. You know things are not how you want them to be or would like them to be, but figuring out why can be tricky. Stress, frustration, or a feeling of heaviness might come from things you don't even realize are there. It could be some commitments you have taken on without question, habits that no longer serve you, or expectations that you are constantly trying to meet. For me, one example of this was when I tried really hard to avoid getting anxious or overwhelmed. I later realized that this unrealistic standard or expectation that I should always feel happy no matter what created even more anxiety for me, making it much harder to deal with the original emotions. So this is why self-awareness is so important. When you take the time to look inward, you start to see what is truly behind it all. Maybe it's that you are overcommitting out of fear of letting people down, or that you are holding on to physical items because they remind you of a version of yourself that you are not ready to let go of. So start by noticing what triggers stress or unease in your daily life. Is it a cluttered workspace, a packed schedule, or a notification on your phone? Often the first step to defeating an invisible enemy is simply naming it. From there, you can begin to simplify with clarity and intention. What are you holding on to? When simplifying your life, one of the most important questions to ask is, what am I holding on to? Is this truly mine, or am I holding on to something I have inherited physically or mentally? So many of the things that we carry with us, whether physical possessions, beliefs, or habits aren't things that we actually chose for ourselves. They are things that we have picked up from maybe society, family, or culture, friends, often without even realizing it. So think about your possessions, for example. Do you keep certain items because they reflect who you are today, or because you think you are supposed to have them? Maybe you own books you have never read but feel guilty getting rid of, or clothes you don't wear because they were expensive. The same goes for routines or expectations. Are you saying yes to things because they align with your values, or because you are afraid of disappointing others? To move forward, take a moment to reflect on one area of your life where you really feel this resistance. Maybe it's your wardrobe, or your social life, or even your work, and then ask yourself, am I holding on to something here because it serves me, or because I feel like I have to? What brings you fulfillment? Self-awareness isn't just about recognizing what you need to let go of. It's also about understanding what truly brings you joy and fulfillment. Too often we focus on what we should do or have instead of what genuinely lights us up. So think about the moments when you feel most at peace or most like yourself? Is it when you are spending time with loved ones, creating something, or perhaps being in nature? And then contrast that with the times you feel drained. What is missing in those moments? This reflection can guide you to prioritize the things that matter most so that you can simplify the rest. For me, these moments often include creating or developing something, solving problems, engaging in deep conversations, helping others, or simply exploring different cultures. I don't know why I like that, but I find that so fascinating. What's nice to have, but not essential? Part of self-awareness is learning to separate what is truly essential from what's just nice to have. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking you need everything to live a good life. But when you try to keep it all and focus on everything equally, you divide all your energy and focus and actually end up focusing on nothing. So ask yourself, what do I really need to feel content? What's nice to have, but not essential? This will help you to recognize what is worth prioritizing and keeping and what isn't that important. You don't need to do at this point necessarily anything with this information, but knowing these things, knowing that is already excellent. Part 2. Break free and find your flow. One of the most powerful shifts in simplifying your life is deciding to stop settling for things that no longer align with you. It's about recognizing the ways you have been tolerating things you know are harmful to you, or at least not supporting you in any way. Breaking free means giving yourself permission to say, this isn't working for me anymore. It doesn't mean that you are ungrateful or want to show others that you are somehow better than them. It means you're just being honest about what no longer feels right. Maybe it's a wardrobe full of clothes you don't enjoy wearing, a job that drains you in every possible way, or a routine that feels lifeless, like working 9 to 5 and then playing video games to kill time until you pass out. Been there, done that. Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Simplifying your life often requires stepping out of your comfort zone. The habits and routines that got you where you are today will not necessarily take you where you want to go. This means doing things that you are not used to, and that can feel uncomfortable at first. Maybe you need to start letting go of your possessions, move somewhere else to have a healthier living environment, or simply let yourself get bored for the first time in years by doing nothing for a while. It's natural to feel resistance, but this is where transformation happens. Sitting with the discomfort rather than avoiding it is key to moving forward. Simplifying your life isn't always easy, but it might not be the hard work that you are imagining. It's not necessarily about exhausting yourself, or at least in my opinion, shouldn't be. I think hard work can be about the physical effort, like decluttering your entire living space. That's for sure physically tiring. It can be about the intensity, so a burst of effort with a clear goal, like trying to change your life in 6 months. This requires a lot of focus and brain power. Or it can be about consistency, small, steady steps taken over multiple years to simplify your life without stopping the process or losing momentum. Each of these approaches has its strengths. Physical effort gives immediate and visible results, while intensity creates big changes relatively fast. But I have always aimed for consistency myself. It's sustainable and avoids burnout. That's why I took that route. But I know that it might not fit everyone's lifestyle, everyone's life situation and personality. So take some time to reflect which type of effort feels most natural for you. Which one do you need the most right now? Balancing simple and complex, fast and slow. Simplifying isn't about removing everything from your life until you have almost nothing left. It's about finding harmony. Some parts of life are beautifully simple, while others are naturally complex. And the key is balancing these two, as well as finding the right pace for both your daily actions and your long-term vision. This balance is what the Italians call tempo giusto, or right tempo, a term originally used in music to describe finding the ideal pace for a composition. It doesn't mean moving slowly all the time, it means being mindful of when to slow down and when to pick up speed. For example, in your daily life, you might take slow, intentional steps in your morning routine, but work fast with focused intensity during some project. And on a larger scale, you might spend a few months being really focused and simplifying, improving one area of your life, and then ease into a period of rest and reflection after that. So balancing fast and slow, simple and complex, creates a rhythm or flow that feels natural and sustainable. You don't need to know the end point. Think of it like driving through fog. You don't need to see until the end of the entire road ahead to start moving or keep moving. You just need enough clarity to follow the path right in front of you and see when to take a turn. Simplifying is pretty much the same. You don't need to have everything figured out or have all the answers before you start taking steps, because each action creates clarity. Each step forward will help you move out of the fog, and over time, everything will become much clearer. You will understand what feels right and what doesn't, what to let go of and what to keep. So instead of overthinking or waiting for the perfect plan, trust the process. Take one small intentional action today and let it guide the next one. Part 3. Top habits to start. What habits do you currently have? I believe that building the right habits is essential for simplifying your life, but before starting new habits, take a moment to reflect on the ones you already have. Ask yourself, are these habits aligned with the life I want? Some habits might be helping you move forward while others could be holding you back. For example, scrolling through your phone first thing in the morning may feel harmless, but it can create brain fog and set the wrong tone for the day. I used to do this, and this was actually one of the first habits that I stopped doing and then found better alternatives for that. A great habit idea for you is the daily reset. This is a simple but very powerful habit to incorporate into your routine. Set aside 5 to 10 minutes every day to tidy up your space, reflect on your day, and/or prepare for tomorrow. This could mean clearing your desk, organizing your to-do list, or simply taking a moment to breathe and let go of the day's stress. Build moments of stillness into your day. Life can feel overwhelming when we are constantly moving from one task to another without any pause in between. That's why this is a very important habit. So these moments don't have to be long, even just a few minutes can make a meaningful difference. During this pause, you can ask yourself, what's on my mind right now? What feels heavy? What feels light? This simple check-in helps you reconnect with yourself, recognize the source of any stress that you might be feeling or tension, and then refocus on what matters right now. This is a great habit, mindful consumption. This is about being intentional with what you bring into your life, whether it's purchases, content on YouTube, for example, or commitments. So before choosing something, ask yourself, does this align with my values or add value to my life? This habit helps you avoid impulsive decisions or very emotional decisions and makes sure that everything you bring into your life serves some sort of purpose. For example, before buying something, consider if it's truly necessarily what you're buying or if you are trying to fill some emotional void, perhaps. Plan your days and weeks. A well-planned day or week creates structure for you and reduces stress. I think we all know this, but at least I didn't take it seriously enough in the past. So take a few minutes at the start of each week or at the end of each week, however you prefer, to outline all your priorities. Yearly declutter. I really believe that decluttering is not a one-time event, it's a habit. So even if you are a minimalist, Set aside time at least once a year to go through your space and let go of items you no longer use or need. While you're doing this, reflect on what you have learned about yourself over the past year and let your values guide what stays and what goes. Of course, you can do this more often if you want, but I would say at least once a year. The next idea for you is to track where you are now. So start writing down where you are in life right now, your goals, struggles, and overall life situation. I started doing this 5 years ago, and looking back at my notes from those times now feels crazy. My past self was living a life that feels so distant to me right now because of all the changes that I have been able to make since then. If you are hoping to make big changes in 2025, now could be the perfect time to begin this habit. Imagine being able to look back 12 months from now and see just how far you have come. I suggest writing these every few months, but you can find what works for you if it's every week or if it's once a year or every 3 years. You just find out what works the best for you. Focus only on the next step. Simplifying your life can feel overwhelming if you try to do everything at once. So instead, focus on just the next step. You can ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do today that will move me closer to where I want to be? By breaking your goals into tiny, manageable actions, you start to build momentum, often without even realizing it. Part 4. Big mistakes to avoid. The first one is neglecting your responsibilities while simplifying. Simplifying your life or living a more minimalist lifestyle is about creating space for what matters, but it shouldn't come at the expense of your responsibilities. It's easy to fall into the trap of focusing so much on self-care or minimalism that essential commitments like family relationships, friends, or work take a back seat. For example, decluttering your home or having self-care days is important, but not if it means neglecting deadlines, skipping meaningful conversations, or avoiding tasks that really need your attention. The goal is to balance self-care practices with the responsibilities that keep your life functioning smoothly. Otherwise, you're just making your life more complex in the long term, even if that feels good in the short term. Overcomplicating things. Sometimes in the pursuit of a more minimalist life, we end up overcomplicating things. This happens when you squeeze the stick too hard. This is a Finnish metaphor that comes from ice hockey, and it refers to or means that you are kind of gripping the stick too tightly in an attempt to play perfectly, which only results in mistakes and frustration. In life, this means becoming so fixated on getting everything perfectly simple that it creates stress instead of ease. For instance, you might set overly rigid rules like decluttering a certain number of items every day, or expecting every area of your life to be perfectly organized all the time. This kind of pressure takes away the whole joy of the process. So remember, simplicity doesn't mean perfection. It's about making progress and feeling lighter, not ticking boxes. The third mistake is ignoring inspiration. Inspiration is something that comes and goes. So a common mistake is ignoring it when it strikes, thinking that you'll just act on it later. But by the time you get around to it, the energy and momentum might already be gone. This has happened to me many times. So I think it's very good that when you feel inspired to declutter, organize, or take any meaningful step towards simplifying or creating the life that you want, act on it. It doesn't have to be perfect or complete, but just get started. You can write down your idea, tackle a small task, or take one intentional action while the inspiration is fresh. Thinking the grass is greener on the other side. It's easy to look at someone else's minimalist life and think, if I could just get there, I would be happier. But this mindset creates unrealistic expectations and can really leave you feel dissatisfied with your own progress. The truth is, even when you simplify, you will still face challenges and life will not magically become perfect. You will still be you, just with less unnecessary weight. That's why it's important to focus on your own journey. A simplified life isn't about chasing perfection, it's about creating a life that feels right for you. If you would like more practical exercises and take the next step to simplify your life, check out my course Simple Life Blueprint. I just kicked off this New Year sale, so you can get it now for 25% off. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to stay kind and meaningful in your own beautiful journey. See you in the next one. Ciao.